Hello everyone, my name is Kritika Shakir. I'm from Nepal and I'm a volunteer in Mind Story project. So talking about Mind Story project, we make articles, quotes, questions based on Buddhist wisdom, and we also make videos, lives with a monk here. So yeah, that's about the Mind Story, and today we are here with another series of Buddhism. And to answer my question, I would like to invite Lumpi John. So welcome, Lumpi.
Thank you.
And if you have any questions regarding it, you can ask in comment section below. I'll be asking Lumpi. And if you think this video is like helpful to others, can be helpful to others, you can share and like the video.
Right. Actually, this is our third time on trying to make the live work today because there were some technical difficulties in the other two times. So I hope this is gonna be all right.
Yeah. So today our topic is type of Buddhism.
So why do you have like curiosity on these questions?
Yeah, I have seen type like monk in Nepal, monk in Thailand, and I see like differences a lot, and I want to know why there is difference. They are monk and they are like following Buddha, right?
Yeah.
So why are their clothing, their explanations, something like that?
Don't you think that this is a kind of fashion?
No, I don't
No?
think. I don't think, because monk usually like live without materialistic, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
So you think that we wear different clothing because we belong to different types or different schools or something like that?
Yeah, I think it can be one reason for that.
Okay. So what are the questions today?
My first question is, how many type of Buddhism are there and why?
Okay. Well, if we talk about Buddhism in the present time, okay, not to mention any modernized or like the Buddhist schools that recently happened these days, the one that has been around for 100 years, for more than that, there are three main types of Buddhism. The first one we call Theravada Buddhism. The monks are from Sri Lanka, Thailand, Myanmar, Cambodia, and Laos, or Southeast Asia, plus Sri Lanka. They are mainly Theravadans. The second one is from East Asia, for example, from China, from Korea, from Japan, from Taiwan. These are called Mahayans, which are like Mahayana is greater school, greater wheel. If you talk about two kinds of vehicles, one could be kind of small vehicle that you can sit only 2 seats, but the other one is like a bus. They have 20, 30 seats. That's the meaning of Mahayans. And the third one is what we are very accustomed to, the name Tibetan monks, like Dalai Lamas. If you heard the word lamas, then you probably relate to Vajrayana or Tibetan monks. So mainly three main schools. But interestingly, it all started with no school at all. During the Buddha's time, maybe I would just have to touch this history a little bit, because if we don't touch this part, we're going to have always the questions, why the difference, are they necessary, or something like that. So during the Buddha's time, there was no school at all. The Buddha was the teacher, and the monks are disciples. But after he passed away, actually before he passed away, he gave kind of two advices. First, in the future, if you feel that there are some practices, some rules that you need to change to make it more applicable to modern society, the modern world, you can change. So he didn't strictly forbid monks from adapting the rules. But at the same time, he also mentioned that if you keep changing a lot, that's not going to be good. So when he passed away, there were quite a few events of recompilations. Recompilation means that monks try to gather evidences and also teachings of the Buddha and make a book called Tripitaka. Okay, the first recompilation, there was no split. Everyone stayed with no school. But after the second recompilation, the first group decided not to change at all. And they actually call themselves Theravadan because they follow the advice of a senior monk, okay, or the senior monks, not to change. The senior monks advise like the younger monks that, okay, if you keep changing, that's not going to be good, because even though the Buddha allows us to change, there's no need to change at the moment. And he didn't even mention what to change, so we should not change carelessly. So that's the Theravadans. But the second one decided to change a bit. For example, the Theravadans will never have food after lunch. So the second one say, yeah, but maybe you can have food after lunch as well. So the second group is called Mahasanghika, which is not Mahayana either. Maybe at this point, many Buddhist scholars decided to relate Mahasanghika and Mahayans together, or Mahayanas together. But there are some evidence that that might not always true. So after Mahasanghika was split from Theravadans, or from the whole thing, there were even more split into 18 schools. So the Theravada schools and the Mahayana schools split further, or Mahasanghika school split further into 18 schools. At that time, different schools, they have different approaches. And eventually, at some point, people try to trace back into the root. All the 18 schools could be traced successfully back to the time of the Buddha, like how they split from each other. So if you think about a tree with some roots, there are always branches, and the branches could be traced back to the same tree. However, these days, if you look at monks from Thailand, from Myanmar, from Cambodia, from Laos, from Sri Lanka, even though we might look slightly different, especially how we dress, the color of the robe, some practices could be slightly different, but we are pretty much similar in many ways. So the Theravadan schools are very, very related. But if you take a look at the Mahayana schools, these days, in the present era, in China, in Myanmar, in China, in Japan, in Korea, there are huge difference between them. So the scholars these days discover some evidence that the Mahayana schools have multiple origins. And in many researches, many publications, I look very much academic today. I don't intend to be this academic, actually. I was, but when you talk about something very formal, then you have to refer to some academic references, right? So the Buddhist scholars these days, when they talk about the origin of Mahayana, they put origins with an S, origins. Because when all the schools tried to trace back, they did not come from the same root. So somehow the 18 schools started to fade away, and eventually they are kind of happening on the practices of different ways of seeing things and different ways of achieving nirvana, and that actually combine as Mahayans or Mahayana Buddhism. And Vajrayana or Tibetan, they also mix what we call Tantra. Yeah, which is a concept of belief that happened during in India, in Tantra, and when they mix them together, especially this is how it's about how we see like the Buddha. For example, the Theravada, they see the Buddha as like a teacher, like a normal human figure teacher. That's pretty much Theravadans. In Mahayana, they actually see like they did not deny that this is also like the way. Okay, Buddhas, they are like also some kind of divine beings as well. So there are Buddhas to worship. There are some divine beings as well.
Yeah, in Nepal too, you worship Buddha.
Yeah.
As a god.
But in Vajrayana, which is also one that practiced in Nepal as well, this is a little bit stronger because it has influence of Tantra. Okay, so this is like the whole story short.
So that's why there are different types and there are different monks and their
Right.
clothing also change.
But even though we have different types, we kind of focus on the same destination, which is still Nirvana. Nirvana is the goal of all the Buddhists somehow.
So can Nirvana like be like differ as they like you as you said that you go in one direction like Nirvana, right?
Yeah.
But the definition of Nirvana can be different or not. Like if Theravadas, Buddhist monk define like Nirvana at one thing as one concept or thing, and Mahayana can just describe it different, right?
Right. Basically, this one we even have different understanding among the same school. For example, in Theravada school, in Mahayana school, Tibetan schools, they all defined or they all understand Nirvana not in the same way. There are two main understanding or to like try to interpret the Nirvana. For example, in Theravada Buddhism, we or in all the schools, I would say in all the schools, there are two main concepts: Nirvana as a state and Nirvana as a place. So one Buddhist group, but not like group, but one theorist, they try to understand Nirvana as a state. So this is a state of the mind. Once you enter this state, it's over. This is not a place. Maybe it's nothingness. Maybe it's just a state. But another group, we try to view it as a place, which is, okay, there's a place called Nirvana. Once you meditate and your mind is pure, your mind is free from defilements, free from kilesas, you enter that place and you stay there forever without having to come back to reborn in the world. But whether or not we see it differently, the word reborn is removed. So there's no more rebirth, no more coming back. So that's the meaning of Nirvana, that we see it different way. But actually, my master, he tried to explain to people as well that we should not talk about something that we have yet to reach there. For example, you might been to Thailand several times. So now you're very familiar with Thailand. But there might be some countries that you've never been to.
Yeah.
Have you been to the state?
No.
No. Okay. Kritika, you have never been to the state. So no matter how much you heard about the place, no matter how much you try to think about, maybe you see photos of the Lady of Liberty, in New York. Some people even mention this in New Jersey. They're fighting. Okay, the Statue of Liberty in New York or New Jersey. right? But the fact that we have never reached there, we can't actually kind of feel confident about discussing the place or discussing about people or trying to understand the place we never reached there. It's like you know that if you maybe take a flight, then you go with this flight definitely to the US, right? But you're yet to take the flight, or the flight is still in the sky. You are yet to reach the destination. We should not talk about it. Otherwise, we can misunderstand each other. And there might be incorrect information as well.
So you cannot explain about what nirvana is?
There was one sutra, actually one teaching of the Buddha, that he mentioned that nirvana exists. Okay, nirvana exists. There is something called nirvana. There is some attraction that is called nirvana. But this attraction is not the sun.
Okay.
This attraction is not the moon. This attraction is not a star. So instead of trying to explain what it is, he said that it's not this. It's not on earth. It's not the sun. It's not the star. It's not anywhere in the universe. So he tried to actually disconnect us from something that we are attached to, that our thought cannot let go of them. So he just confirmed that it exists, but the way he described is to explain that it's not like that. Like imagine that if you are a turtle may have a chance to go on the ground, right? And the turtle wants to see something on the ground, like some trees, some places. The turtle went back to the pond, and the turtle tried to tell the fish, okay, today I was on the ground, I was walking, I was racing with an air, and I won. But the fishes will probably not understand, even though the turtle would say, in the ground there are some building, there are some waterfall, but there's no such thing in the water. So imagine ourselves as the fishes who never really seen like the ground, the land. So we should not actually try to understand just by thinking, just by listening, but by practicing until we reach there, until we probably become a turtle, and we can see it by ourselves. So that's kind of the main essence that the Buddha wanted everyone to do.
Okay, that you cannot like explain and show it
Yeah.
to people. So the different type of monks, as you said in last video, that you have to follow 227 precepts, right?
Yes.
So every type, like there are different type, they have to follow the same thing, or they practices the same thing as Theravada, or they have different precepts or different rules about it.
Right. Basically, the precepts of Mahayanans and also the Tibetan monks are even more than the Theravadans. So 227 as the basics, and then they have something even more.
More.
Yeah, and the thing is that they pay more attention to a precepts called precepts of the Bodhisattva, which is like the precept of, the concept of Bodhisattva?
No.
Bodhisattva are those actually who wish to become Buddha in the future, or the precepts of Buddhahood. So they actually, this is how we also see different, like in Theravadans, or for the monks in Thailand, in Myanmar, in Laos, there is a Buddha, and we are students, and we are happy. That's all. So if we follow his teaching, we liberate ourselves, we share with other people, all are liberated, everyone is happy. But in Mahayana schools and Vajrayana schools, everyone aims to be a Buddha. So that's the Buddhahood we talk about. If you follow these precepts and you pay more attention to these precepts, one day you can become Buddha, and that's how you can get yourself and free many more people at the same time. So this is how the understanding or the perception of the Buddha and ourselves or the monks also different.
So precepts can be more, can be less in different type of Buddhism.
Usually more, and the way we pay attention to it is different as well. It's like, okay, the Theravada actually pay more attention to this one, and the Mahayana pay more attention to this one, and there are some modifications of the rules as well.
So, like, yeah, I have seen Thai monks coming to Thailand, coming to Nepal, and Nepali people, like Nepal monks, going to Thailand, but they're because it's different, right? Like, how you just make a group and work it.
Think about it this way: we have, even in the real world, different organizations or different companies. Each organization and each company, they have their own rules, regulations, policies, strategy. Everything different. They even have different boss, right? So these organizations, no matter how much they are different, they can still work together. So even though we might probably not live together, because when you say that I keep these rules and you say you keep the other rule and you don't see the way I see the rules in the same way, if we stay together, there will be big, huge conflicts. So we better stay separately, but we work together. It's like you are in company A, I'm in company B, and together we can make business together. Or you are an organization A and I'm an organization B. Together we can fight climate change in the same way.
Yeah. So there are lots of people joining our live. So hello and welcome everyone.
Right. If you have any questions, you can ask.
Yeah,
right?
If you have any question, please comment it down below. So Lumpi, about another question is, I have seen ordination in Thailand and I have seen in Nepal too. But I see that in ordination, usually in Nepal, monks do not shave their eyebrows or their beards or moustache. But in Thailand, you have to shave everything, right?
Yes.
So why is that? It's because of the type 2?
Basically, monks are, according to what we learned, these are considered distractions in the way that if you have longer hair, then you have different ways of treating your hair and taking care of your hair. So the Buddha say, shave it off. Otherwise, you have to think on Monday, I like to have my hairstyle like this, and next month, I like to have my hairstyle like this. Sometimes we want our hairstyle short, sometimes we want it long, sometimes we want it straight, sometimes we want it curly, sometimes we want it black, sometimes we want it blonde. So if thinking about hairstyle and making decisions about it is complicated, then shave it off. This is what Buddha gave advice to monks, how they treat their hair and also moustache and beard. But sometimes monks could be in forest or could be kind of away from society. So those monks who live in forest or maybe who are on a kind of pilgrimage that we call Titanka, they don't shave very often. So they could have a little bit longer hair and maybe some beards as well. But once they return to society, they shave it off. So the beard and moustache, they're pretty common, unless there might be some schools that maybe decided to change about this as well, but you don't actually see very much monks who wear moustache and beard. Of course, the hair could be a little bit in different thickness. Why? Because the Buddha said that you should cut your hair often. But he didn't say how often, strictly. So you can cut, maybe you should do it every month, you should do it every hour, like 2 times a month. Or some temple will choose to do it maybe just once a month. But the Buddha said that it should not kind of longer than this. This part of your finger, right? So it could be longer, but it should not be longer than this. So some monks could be a little bit more relaxed about shaving their head and have it a little bit longer. So this is not kind of violating the original rules as well, original precepts.
So not shaving eyebrows in Nepal is like difference, like.
Okay. The eyebrows. This is another thing. Actually, Thai monks are the only monks who shave their eyebrows. Yeah. So if you travel to places and you see monks who have eyebrows, and I don't have eyebrows, so please be aware that Thai monks are the only group in the world that shave their eyebrows. And we cannot find any historical evidence that kind of support how we shave our eyebrows. Okay. We try to look at different publications, citation, and some materials, but the one that we find out is quite hilarious. Actually, it is during the period when we have problems with Myanmar, our neighboring countries. So we have conflict, and we try to be very careful on spy, So there was a rumor that spy from Myanmar, at the time it was called Burma, came to Thailand and disguised themselves as monks. So the Thai king asked the monks in Thailand to kind of make things different. So the Thai king asked the monks in Thailand to kind of shave the eyebrows, so we look different than the monks from Myanmar. So this is kind of the evidence we only have about why Thai monks shave their eyebrows.
Okay. There is a question, Lumpy, by Ivana. I'm sorry if I pronounce your name a little bit.
Ivana.
So the question is, I know you said Theravada Buddhism does not change the original rule, but is it possible to conceptualize it?
Contextualize.
Contextualize it.
Well, there was one story. It was very interesting. During the Buddha's time, there was a monk who actually felt that keeping many rules was a little bit too much for him. So he decided to walk to the Buddha, and he said to the Buddha, the Lord Buddha, I would like to quit. I would like to disrobe. I don't want to be a monk anymore. The Buddha asked, why? That's because there's so many rules. I don't even remember all of them. So I don't think I should live my life as a Buddhist monk. The Buddha said, if I give you only one rule, would you be able to follow it? That monk thought several times, okay, if there's just one rule to follow, why not? That would be interesting. Mm-hmm. So the monk was given this one rule, that try to be mindful of your actions. Anything that you do that will cloud your mind, don't do them. Anything that you do that will purify your mind, do them. Can you keep this rule? And the monk said, yes, definitely, I can keep this rule. So ever since he practiced the rule, only one rule, only one. He was kind of a special case. Mm-hmm. And he managed to be very mindful and become an enlightened one as well. So this is how, even though we don't change the rules, or we shouldn't discuss about the rule, but deep down inside, we started to understand the questions why. Why do we have to keep this rule? And once you started to understand the why, these days things are changing a lot. We even have like this talking between monks that if the Buddha would live up to this era, he would define 10,000 rules and we don't even remember all of them. So with technology, with the changes of society, if you begin always with why questions, why should I do this? Is it good for my mind? Is it bad for my mind? If it is good for my mind, do it. If it is not good for my mind, don't do it. And that's it.
Yeah, Ibn, I have that question too about having to, like, you can eat meat as a monk, or like there is a precept, right, that you cannot kill animal, you cannot hurt them. So why people like monk can eat meat? That's the question that everyone actually have in their mind, I think.
Okay. Basically, in Buddhism, what we actually believe is called the law of the karma. Okay, karma simply means actions. And actions should also be intentional actions as well. For example, if you unintentionally did something to someone, so that doesn't count very strongly. Okay, so we talk about intentional actions. And these intentional actions, if you talk about the actions of eating, okay, and again we relate to the concept of making the mind pure or making the mind clouded. The Buddha said that you can't be pure just by eating. So the way you use energy from eating is going to make you pure. If you eat a dish and you use your energy to meditate, to do something good for other people, then the Buddha honor that action, the actions of helping others, meditating, purifying your mind. But if you eat a second dish, okay, and you use your energy to hurt people, to fight people, to kill people, this is not good either. So based on this understanding that we are not a good person or a bad person just by eating, but the way we use energy from eating, actually that's the first thing. That's the first thing that the Buddha in Theravada scripture, he mentioned, or in the original scripture, he mentioned that the monk, they could eat whatever they offered, because we monks, we need to live with a simple life. And with a simple life, we should not be very picky. Like if you offer me the food and then I say to you, hey, Kritika, tomorrow could you give me pizza? And the day after tomorrow, could you give me Japanese food? And the day after tomorrow, could you give me Chinese food? Because I'm bored. You've been giving me Italian food for 2 weeks already. Why don't you give me something else? Then the monks are pretty much picky already. And we have to go to different places, different culture. So the Buddha taught us that you need to keep a simple life. And with this simple life, whatever offered to you, then you eat and you use your energy, the energy that you get from eating, to do something good. And in this way, we consider eating and killing as two separate actions. So the Buddha said that whatever you eat, if you did not intend, that intention, you just eat to survive, you just eat because they offer to you, that's fine.
So if we offer meat to Lumpi and monks, they can eat, right?
Yes.
Because that's what we offered, you did not intend to.
Yes.
So what if I have to follow precepts, right? And I have to be vegetarian for that, or
yeah, and then you offer me vegetarian food, then I'm also vegetarian in that sense.
No. As a normal person, lay
As a
person.
normal person, yes.
Yeah, if I have to follow precept, because it first thing it talks about is not killing animals, right? So if I have to be like if I follow the precepts, I have to be vegetarian.
Not necessarily, because in this context, eating and killing, we consider kind of two separate actions. In a way that if the food that you get, you didn't intend to kill it, you didn't actually see the whole process, then you just kind of get it maybe because of a kind of purchase, and then you eat it, or someone give it to you and then you eat it. So that has nothing to do with your kind of killing karma, okay?
Or it can be the karma that animal have to face, something like that.
And everything or every being has their own karma. When the negative karma comes to them, no matter they got killed for eating or not, they're going to die. Like we human, we don't eat each other, but we still kill each other. Human dies every day because we have kind of associated negative karmas.
So it has nothing to do with cravings, right? If I crave meat and if I eat meat because of my cravings, it's like breaking the rule?
Not necessarily in this case. Again, if you separate two actions totally from each other.
Oh, okay.
Okay? For example, the killing action and the eating action, you separate them. And these two actions are not going to be considered together. But if you try to combine all the actions together, then you have to consider actions of the clothes that you wear, of the things that you use as well. Whether clothes that you wear, things that you use, also disturbed beings or human beings or anything in life. So if you're going to consider the karma based on this context, you need to separate different karmas from each other.
Yeah, okay, that pretty much is like not to put two actions together. Okay. Lumpy, my other question is, when I come to Thailand, I also like got informed that monks in Thailand cannot touch women. And I have never heard that rule, so I was shocked. So I want to ask the reason why.
So monks in Nepal, they can touch women, right?
I think you can like touch or just pat something, not just touch.
Okay, not just like
Hug
sexual,
hug
something like that. Well, basically, during the Buddha's time, the rule was defined because some monks touch women inappropriately. It means that during the Buddha's time, monks could touch women, no problem. But some monks, they did not behave. Because again, if we consider Buddhism as a school, monks are students. And Buddha is the teacher. So some students are good students. Some students are, still learning. So those students who were still learning, who were still trying, they did not touch women appropriately. So the Buddha defined a rule. If you don't know how to touch women, to touch ladies appropriately, then don't touch them at all. But the rule was originally mentioned that don't touch with desire. And this is how different schools started to interpret this differently. That, okay, if I do not touch with desire, that's my right. Some schools are more relaxed when it comes to this rule. So they touch women. But for the Theravadins, they are a little bit conservative in the way that, how do we know that we don't have desire? Maybe we have desire deep in our mind. So in order to prevent first ourselves, because sometimes you don't even kind of feel comfortable with yourself, and or you understand your feeling at the moment, and to prevent criticism that people will have when they look at you, or maybe when they see you, or if I would touch you and they say, yeah, I have desire, maybe you believe me, maybe you don't believe me. So the Theravadins, we don't touch at all, while the Mahayana monks or the the Tibetan monks, they're a little bit more relaxed, because they're kind of confident. Oh, I don't have desire. So this is a little bit of the different approaches when it comes to this rule of no touching.
So it is not based on just like in Thailand?
Oh, it's not based on only in Thailand, but the thing is that in some places they also kind of have some contact with some clothing as well. So with clothing, and then you have the contact with clothing, that's fine. So this is about like body to body contact, and maybe some cloth between, and but the monks in Thailand, maybe we are the most orthodox or the most conservative, and the way we take and try to keep this rule is the strictest one. This is actually for our benefits though, because the Buddha said the more you touch, the more you want to be with them, the more that you wanted to do something else. So in order to keep our celibate life, we decided to be a little bit more strict with this one. It is like how you actually build your house with several walls. You have your house, and then you have the wall, and you have fences, but you have different layers of fences. The Theravada have many layers of fences, just to prevent the house to be broken, or the thief to take away our celibacy, maybe.
Okay. So we have lots of people joining our live. Say, Sarah, welcome. If you have any question, please comment it down below. And someone commented, Namaskar Lumpi.
Okay. All right. If you have any questions about, like the types of Buddhism, and also anything that you'd like to know, of course.
About meditation, you can always visit the page Mind Story and leave message if you want to know more. Lumpi would be happy to answer.
Okay.
So I don't have any more questions.
You don't have any more questions?
So, yeah.
Okay.
You have any addition on this type of Buddhism?
Well, I would say that even though we might look different, and even though the way we practice could be probably different, but the goal is the same. The goal is first to find peace within yourself, and once you found your own peace, you share with others. There is also like a saying that the Theravadins focus more on our individual peace, and the Mahayans, they focus more on the outer peace. But I believe that it should be 50-50. So for ourselves, 50%, we spend our time finding our own individual peace. And once we have found, we can spend another 50% for the benefits of people. So we should not actually focus on, okay, we should think only about ourselves and not to spread out very much. Or the other groups will claim that we should focus on spreading ourselves, spreading the peace, and forget about ourselves. We should make it balanced. Because in Buddhism, everything is about balance. Even when we meditate, it is the balance between relaxation and concentration. And that's why the Buddha said that this balance is called the middle way. It's about the balance. So this is what I like to share today.
Thank you so much
Yes.
for answering every questions.
Okay, do you have any questions you can ask? Otherwise, we can
End the video.
end the video. Yes. Right.
So if you want to know about more about the Mind Story, there is a page, Facebook page, Mind Stories, and